I'd love to deal with it. Personally, I would love to see at the federal level the Department of Education completely dismantled. I think it ought to be in the purview and the power of the state. I concur with your numbers. I don't know if you can see this chart. That's our SAT scores in the district. They're down 100 points in the same time we've gone up 40% in admin. We need to find more effective ways, and the more local control is in schools, the more effective schools are. From parents to teachers to administration and to leadership at a local level, that will be the effective thing that makes it work. I wish that CFB could vote and say suddenly we're not going to be a part of any of the federal government and the Department of Education directives. Unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity. But you ask me, and Randy's telling you, I would love to see it in the hands of the state.
Should parents have the ability to use vouchers for their choice of public or private schools for their kids?
I'm actually on record in the Dallas Morning News Voters Guide of, we didn't talk about vouchers, they asked about charter schools. But my answer was, I am in favor of anything that creates options for families and competition. I believe competition strengthens us in business. I believe it strengthens us in our schools. Certainly, I believe we compete, and we compete well in CFB. We do have good schools, and there are some programs in CFB that are dynamite. I have kids in the METSA program. We have some outstanding things happening, but I'm not afraid for us to compete. So from vouchers to charter schools to other options for parents, I think options are great.
What is your view of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1962 declaring prayer in schools to be unconstitutional?
You do understand you're talking to a person with a master's degree in theology and who is on church staff for 15 years. I think the federal government, and I would have preferred that the court have left that alone. I believe people ought to have the right to pray.
Have you been involved in local school board issues or elections? Please explain. I believe you at least partially answered that.
Could you repeat that? I missed part of that. I guess I was still thinking.
Have you been involved in local school board issues or elections?
Okay. You know, if you can't come down here and actually attend one of our school board meetings, you can watch them online. I've either been in this room or watched online all the meetings for the last 3 years. I've been at work studies. I've been involved in board issues and studying with various ones. I've been involved in our schools as a mentor and as a volunteer. I'm presently a mentor volunteer with our NJHS. I am working with a number of other organizations and other volunteer opportunities in our schools, and been involved in a lot of civic activities. If you get a chance to pick up the little flyer that's out there that says Classrooms First and has, unfortunately, my picture on the front, but if you turn over the back where you see my dog and my wife, you'll like it better. But on the back, it'll give you a list of a lot of things I've done, including working on state commissions and appointed to serve in those capacities for school projects.
We, the people of the United States, endeavor to be a virtuous people. Virtue implies the possession or manifestation of moral excellence that governs our values concerning the sanctity of all life from birth until death. Honesty, trustworthiness, integrity, charity, industriousness, courage, reverence for God and country are all qualities that comprise virtue. As a people, we endeavor to elect and appoint those officials that exemplify these virtues. John Adams, our second president, stated in expressing the dangers of widespread immorality, quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." What are the virtues that you feel you exemplify, and explain your core values rooted in these virtues?
Great question. Mostly I want to say amen. I believe that if you were to talk to everyone I've ever done business with, they're going to tell you Randy Schackmann is a man of his word. When he tells you something, you can believe it and you can take it to the bank. I believe in honesty and integrity. I occasionally get a little concerned when I see things like, and even ask my wife, who is an English teacher in our district, I asked her, I said, why are they photocopying so many pieces for this test or for that? Because that's a violation of copyright. I happen to believe we need to set this bar high. We need to be people of integrity in everything we do. Honesty matters, words count. And I personally believe that God has made us, He loves us, and He wants me to be a servant and to be one who brings His ideals to the world.
How should the ideal elected official represent his or her constituents, and why would you do a better job than your opponent if you are elected?
Well, let me talk about what I would do. I believe, and I've been training as a professional boards for 15 to 20 years, and I've worked and helped to train boards in 40-some states. When you're on a board, you represent the constituents. You don't represent the district. You represent the constituents, in this case, the stakeholders, you and me, the taxpayers, the parents. You do that by listening, by committing yourself to do your homework and study issues carefully, to understand, to be open, to look at both sides of an issue before you make up your mind, and to really try to be a person who has an open door, who can be one that is approachable by the stakeholders. And if in bringing those kind of ideals to our board, I believe that I will be successful to serve you, the people who this district is for.
Do you see a problem with the current one-to-one teacher-admin ratio? And if so, what and how should that be changed?
There are a whole series of ways. You know, in the world nowadays, if you listen to conservative talk radio, they talk about Obama and fuzzy math. When we get to counting numbers in schools and in districts, it's hard to count various things. One-to-one, back-to-one. There is approximately one teacher in our district, one certificated teacher for every one other employee. It is not one-to-one necessarily per administrator. However, there are 1,700 certificated teachers and only 1,400 of them are in classrooms. The others are in various leadership capacities. So it's hard to make. Long story short, we've got to keep teachers in our classrooms. We have to keep class ratios low. We say right now we have 15 students to every one teacher. I dare you to find a class in our district with only 15 students in it. One of the reasons they do that is because there's a lot more people with certificates than there are teaching. So we have to keep classroom sizes small and continue to support our teachers and bring down the out-of-balance admin costs.
How would you describe your own political philosophy? In other words, conservative, moderate, liberal, progressive, etc.
I probably ought to let Ruth answer that one. I think she would say, he's pretty conservative. No, he's really conservative. I'm proud to be conservative. I'm proud of this country. My father was a World War II vet, served in all of the theaters. I'm proud that I've met my wife and that she is my wife now. Her first husband was died in Iraq serving this country, and this country means everything to me.
Should public schools return to the principles of teaching the basics, that is, reading, writing, and arithmetic?
Told you my mom was a teacher for 33 years. I'm Randy. I'm the middle of three sons, Rainey, Randy, and Rodney, because she believed in the 3 R's. That's a true story. We have to focus on the basics. We've got to understand that the basics must expand and understand technology and those things, but we have to be able to help kids to be able to read. We have to be able to help kids understand the English language, whether they came to this country with another language or whether they're kids that grew up here. We need to be able to help with math and all of those basic fundamentals, because our job is to prepare kids not just for college, but to prepare them for life, for workplace, for college, so that they can pursue their dreams, that American dream that we all want.
What is the total salary cost of classroom teachers versus the non-teachers?
The average teacher in our district salary without benefits is at about $52,000. Now it gets really dicey beyond that because, you know, are you talking about the group that's coded admin? Are you talking about the group that then gets coded instructional leadership? Are you talking about the group that's classroom aides? Our district budget includes people that are cafeteria aides and on and on and on. So it gets very challenging to deal with that. We've got to make sure that we continually support our classrooms and our teachers. I believe there should not be so much discrepancy between the average teacher salary and some of those leadership salaries. And I think that's an area that we can make some progress in and help to balance our budget partially in that area.
In your view, how serious is the threat to our liberty from our own federal government at the present time?
That's another one that gets a little out of the purview of CFB, but I'm always loving to talk. When we think about the federal government, my opinion, kind of like what we were saying about the Department of Education earlier, I would prefer, and I believe it is constitutionally based, for the federal government to be limited in scope. I believe the framers of our Constitution wanted the powers to be invested in the state. I believe that that is a preeminent principle. And when I was at law school working on various things, the constitutional law class that we had focused on how do we look at that, and that's the way I read and understand that Constitution. So I would prefer that we see a limiting of a lot of the powers and a lot of the things. I'm not crazy about everything from czars to departments to on and on and on in our federal government.
One final question, and we'll turn it back to Camille. What is the one burning issue that prompted you to run for this office?
Well, as much as I'd like to tell you it's Agenda 21, it wasn't. That's an issue that we've got to be concerned with. But the burning issue is that we have good schools, and my son's in them, and I want them to continue to be great. And we've got a serious issue, and I believe God has prepared me and has given me the experience in working with over 200 organizations to deal with budget issues like we've got, to be able to deal with this budget and deal with these issues. I look forward to working with the board. I look forward to serving you. And most of all, I look forward to helping our students to have the best schools anywhere. We can, we must, and we need to.
All right, thank you, Randy. Would you give... All right, we're not finished. All right, we need your minute-and-a-half wrap-up, something that you wanted to share with us that you didn't get to share.
My 20-minute wrap-up, thank you.
1.5 minutes.
Folks, thank you for being here. I'm Randy Schackmann. I'm a conservative voice. I'm not a district insider. I bring experience. I bring leadership. I bring a proven track record of helping organizations